The elevator shook when Marcus June pressed the button. He shouldn't have done it. The warning was right there, written in shaky handwriting on the yellowed sign next to the panel. Do not press 3 road floor. Someone had crossed out the warning 3 times with red pen, but the words were still readable underneath. Marcus looked at his distorted reflection in the scratched metal doors. It was 2:47 a.m., and he was alone in this forgotten building in downtown Chicago. The Hartwell building had been abandoned in 1987, or at least that's what public records said. But when Marcus followed the suspect here 2 hours ago, he was sure he saw lights flickering in the 5th floor windows. Now the suspect had disappeared, and Marcus was stuck in this ancient elevator that smelled of mold and rust. The doors closed with a metallic screech that made his teeth ache. The elevator began to descend, but the numbers on the digital display blinked erratically. 5. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Crane, and I'm a forensic psychiatrist at Illinois State Hospital. 3 weeks ago, a man named Marcus June was admitted to the psychiatric ward. He was covered in scratches, dehydrated, and repeating the same phrase over and over. I pressed the 3rd floor. I shouldn't have pressed the 3rd floor. Marcus wasn't an ordinary patient. He was a respected Chicago police detective with 15 years of service and no history of mental problems. But when they found him wandering Michigan Avenue at 5 in the morning, he was in a state of deep shock. What I'm about to tell you isn't in the official records. It can't be, because what Marcus revealed to me during our sessions defies all logic, all reason. But after investigating on my own, after finding other survivors, after seeing the Hartwell building with my own eyes, I believe him, every word. And if you live near an old building, if you've ever seen an elevator with strange warnings, if you've ever felt that inexplicable chill when entering an abandoned building, you need to hear this story. Before I continue, leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I need to know if there are other buildings like the Hartwell. I need to know how many people have seen the warnings and ignored them. Marcus June was 38 years old when it all happened. Married, to children, a solid career. He didn't believe in ghosts, in curses, in anything that couldn't be explained by science or solved with meticulous investigation. That rationality is what made him an excellent detective, but it was also what almost killed him. The night started simply. Marcus was investigating a series of burglaries in abandoned commercial buildings in downtown Chicago. The pattern was always the same. Someone broke into the buildings at night but never took anything of value. They only left strange marks on the walls, symbols that no expert could decipher. The Hartwell building was the 5th on the list. Built in 1923, it had been a luxury hotel during the Roaring '20s, then transformed into an office building in the '50s. It closed permanently in 1987. After a series of incidents that the records didn't specify, Marcus had researched everything he could about the place. He knew there were 6 floors, that the structure was condemned, that the city had been planning to demolish the building for years, but could never approve the budget. What he didn't know was that there was a reason nobody wanted to work on the demolition. That night, Marcus parked his car 3 blocks away. He didn't want to alert the suspect in case he was still in the building. At 12:30, he saw a hooded figure enter through the side door that should have been locked. Marcus waited 10 minutes. 10 full away. The side door led to a narrow hallway that smelled of moldy paper and something else. Something sickly sweet that he couldn't identify. His flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing peeling walls with wallpaper that had probably been elegant decades ago. Now it was stained, torn, with floral patterns that seemed distorted in the uncertain light. Marcus followed footprints in the dust. They were recent, leading to the main hall where the elevator was. And that's where he saw it for the first time. The elevator was working. The doors were open, the interior light flickering faintly, but working, in a building that hadn't had electricity for more than 30 years. Marcus should have left at that moment. Every trained instinct screamed that something was wrong, but then he heard a scream, muffled, coming from an upper floor, a scream of pure terror. The detective in him took control. Someone was in danger. He ran to the elevator, entered, and looked at the panel. 6 buttons, worn by time, and the yellowed sign beside them. Do not press 3, road floor. Marcus pressed 5, where the scream seemed to have come from. Nothing happened. 836. Nothing. 4. Nothing. The only buttons that worked were the ground floor, 2 and 3. And the elevator was refusing to move. That's when he made the mistake, he thought. Maybe it's just an electrical problem. Maybe the 3rd floor is the only functional route to the upper floors. It was flawed, desperate logic, but Marcus was hearing that scream echoing in his mind. He pressed 3. The reaction was immediate. The elevator lights flashed violently, from weak yellow to deep red, then back to normal. The doors closed with such force that the displaced air hit Marcus's face, and the elevator began to descend. "Wait," Marcus said aloud, his own voice sounding strange in the confined space. I pressed to go up, but the display showed the numbers descending. 1, 0, -1, -2. "No," Marcus muttered. Phil and panic began to rise in his throat. "There are no basement floors." At Marcus, there were maybe 30 of them, all wearing clothes from different eras. A man in a 1920s suit, a woman in a Victorian dress, a child in a 1960s school uniform. They all shared one thing in common. Their eyes. Empty. Literally empty. As if someone had removed the eyeballs and left only the dark sockets. But even so, Marcus could feel they were looking at him, seeing through him. "Welcome to the 3rd floor," said the voice. And Marcus realized it was coming from all of them at once, their mouths moving in perfect synchrony. "You pressed the button. You called us. Now, you stay." Marcus drew his gun with shaking hands. "Stay where you are. I'm a police officer." The figures didn't move, they just kept staring. And then, the closest one. The man in the 1920s suit smiled. It was an impossible smile, stretching far beyond what human facial muscles would allow, revealing rows and rows of teeth that continued going into the throat. "Police," the collective voice said, and there was humor in it. "How many policemen have come?" 4. 5. They also pressed the button. They also had shiny badges. Now they're here. Forever. One of the figures at the back of the group took a step forward. Marcus saw with growing horror that it was a policeman. The uniform was old, from the 70s, but the badge still shone. And when the man opened his mouth, the voice that came out was hoarse, broken, as if it hadn't been used in decades. "Run." That single word broke the trance. Marcus threw himself against the elevator panel, punching all the buttons simultaneously. Ground floor. 2nd floor. Anything but 3. The elevator doors convulsed, trying to close. But the figures were approaching now, moving spasmodically, like puppets with cut strings. Cadaverous hands reached through the opening, and then, miraculously, the doors closed completely. The elevator shook violently and began to rise. Marcus fell to his knees, his gun clattering on the metal floor. He could hear screams from the other side of the doors, not of anger, but of frustration, of hunger. "Soho!" Marcus stepped on the accelerator before even fully processing what he was seeing. The car shot down the empty street, tires screeching. He looked in the rearview mirror again. The back seat was empty. It had to be empty. It had just been shock, stress, a hallucination provoked by whatever had happened in that cursed elevator. But his hand still trembled on the wheel, and he could swear he smelled a sickly sweet and rotten odor filling the car. The same smell from the Hartwell building. Marcus drove aimlessly for hours, circling through Chicago's streets while his mind struggled to process what he had seen. People without eyes, a hallway that defied physics, voices speaking in unison. None of it made sense. None of it should be possible. At 4:30 a.m., he finally stopped in a 24-hour parking lot near Lincoln Park. He needed to think. Needed answers. He grabbed his laptop from the glove compartment bag and started searching. Hartwell Building, Chicago, history. The first results were basic. Built in 1923 by hotel magnate James Hartwell, served as a luxury hotel until 1952, then converted to commercial offices. Abandoned in 1987. But Marcus went deeper. He searched the old newspaper archives from Chicago's digital library, and he found it. 1925. Hartwell Hotel guest mysteriously disappears from third floor. Search finds no trace. 1931. Second disappearance at Hartwell raises questions. Families demand investigation. 1947. Hartwell Hotel temporarily closes after undisclosed incident on third floor. 1952. Hartwell reopens as commercial building. Third floor remains unoccupied due to structural problems. 1968. Hartwell building janitor found in catatonic state. Babbles about the people in the elevator. 1987. Hartwell building closes permanently after executive death. Cause of death undetermined. Body found in elevator shaft between second and third floors. Marcus leaned back, horror growing. It wasn't an isolated incident. The Hartwell's third floor had a history of disappearances, deaths, madness. Why had he never heard about this? Why didn't the police have records? He continued searching and found something even more disturbing. An obscure blog maintained by an urban phenomena researcher named David Reeves. The last post was from 2019. The third floor. Trapped building phenomenon. I've been documenting cases of buildings with phantom floors for 15 years. The Hartwell in Chicago is just one. There are others. The Ashmore building in Detroit, the Riverside complex in Portland, the Centro Towers in Atlanta. No, not those twin towers. These were never famous because people know to avoid them. They all share common characteristics. One built between 1920-19302. A specific floor, always odd. Third, fifth, seventh, ninth. That seems to exist outside normal space. 3 warnings left by previous victims for once you activate the floor by pressing the button. You're marked 5. The entities on the floor can't leave it, but they can reach those who've even marked if you're rereading this. Because you pressed the button, I'm sorry, I pressed it 6 years ago. They never left me. Even now, as I write this in my locked apartment, I can feel them in the shadows. Waiting. Watching. There's only one way to break the mark. You need to return to the floor, voluntarily. And do what they want, but I haven't figured out what they want. And I'm running out of time. If anyone finds this blog after I'm gone, please warn others. Don't press the button. No matter what you hear. No matter who's in danger. It's a trap. It always was. The post ended there. Marcus searched for information about David Reeves. Found an obituary from 2019. W. Drebs, 41, found dead in his apartment under unexplained circumstances. No signs of violence. Facial expressions suggested extreme terror at moment of death. The laptop almost fell from Marcus's hands. He looked around the empty parking lot. The fluorescent lights flickered irregularly. Every shadow seemed darker than it should be. And then his phone rang. The caller ID showed. Third floor. Impossible. Marcus didn't have that contact. Didn't have any contact with that name. His hands trembled as he answered. Hello, static. Then, that collective voice he knew too well now. Marcus Chun. Detective Marcus Chun. You ran, but you can't run from us. We're in your phone now, in your dreams. In the shadows of your room when you turn off the lights. You let us in when you press the button. What do you want? Marcus whispered. The same thing we've always wanted. Company. The third floor is lonely, Marcus. So lonely. The people who press the button, ... They see us, they recognize us. They're special. They deserve to stay with us. Forever. I'm not going back. Never. Laughter. That horrible laughter of multiple voices. You don't need to come back. We're already coming to you. Look in your rearview mirror. Marcus, he didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed not to look. But his neck turned involuntarily, as if invisible strings were pulling it. In the rearview mirror, reflected in the rear window of the car, was the man in the suit, and the woman in the Victorian dress, and the child in uniform, and the policeman from the 70s, and dozens of others, all crammed into the impossible back seat, their faces pressed against the glass, empty sockets fixed on him. "No," Marcus moaned. He opened the car door and ran, left everything behind: the laptop, his badge, his gun, his wallet. Just ran through Lincoln Park as the sun began to rise over Chicago. Ran until his legs failed, until his lungs burned, until he fell to his knees on the dudum grass. And when he looked up, normal people were jogging, dogs playing, the world going on normally. Maybe he had escaped them. Maybe being under sunlight was safe. But then Marcus saw, at the edge of the tree line, partially obscured by shadows, the figures watching, waiting. And he knew David Reeves had been right. Once marked, never free. Marcus spent the next 3 days without sleep, constantly moving, staying only in crowded, well-lit public places. Shopping malls, police stations. Wherever there was light and people, but they were always there, at the periphery of his vision. Reflected in glass, standing at the back of crowds, motionless while everyone moved around them. On the third day, reality began to unravel. Marcus saw the figures, even when he blinked, heard the collective voice whispering through every background conversation. The world began to have that nightmare quality that the third-floor hallway had: wrong perspectives, impossible angles. That's when he finally had a breakdown on Michigan Avenue, screaming about the third floor to anyone who would listen. The police took him, called an ambulance. And so Marcus June, respected detective with 15 years of service, was admitted to the psychiatric ward of Illinois State Hospital, where he met Dr. Elizabeth Crane, and where the story really began to unfold. When I first met Marcus, I thought it was just another case of professional burnout leading to a psychotic episode. I see that regularly. Police officers, paramedics, any high-stress profession can eventually break a mind, but there was something different about Marcus. The specificity of his delusion, the absolute consistency in every detail he reported, and most importantly, the scratches. Marcus had been admitted covered in superficial scratches. Dozens of team and patterns that doctors couldn't explain. They weren't from a fight. They weren't self-inflicted. They were precise, almost surgical, forming symbols on his skin. Symbols I recognized. 5 years ago, before specializing in forensic psychiatry, I briefly worked in Seattle. There, I treated a patient named Robert Marsh, who presented symptoms almost identical to Marcus's: extreme insomnia, paranoia about being followed by people without eyes, and mysterious scratches forming the same symbols. Robert had pressed the button for the 7th floor in the Ashmore building. I had dismissed it as psychosis. Robert killed himself 3 weeks later. So when Marcus started talking about the 3rd floor of the Hartwell building, something in my mind clicked. An impossible connection. During our first session, I maintained a professional expression while Marcus related his experience. "Dr. Crane," he said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "I know how this sounds. I know it seems like madness, but I'm a rational man. I don't believe in ghosts. I didn't. So please, just check. Go to the Hartwell building. Look at the elevator. See if I'm crazy." "Marcus," I replied calmly, "you've been through trauma. The human brain can create very convincing experiences when I know the difference between real and hallucination." He exploded, then composed himself, running his hands through his disheveled hair. Sorry, but they're here, in this hospital. I see them in the hallways at night, standing in corners, waiting." "You've seen them since you were admitted?" He nodded slowly. "They can't touch me here. I don't know why. Maybe it's the number of people. Maybe it's something about the lights always being on. But they're watching. Always watching. And Dr. Crane, they're starting to bring others. Other victims. I researched during my sleepless days. There's a pattern. People disappear near these buildings. Not many. 1 or 2 a year. Spread over decades. Enough not to attract attention, But when you put together all the cases from the last 100 years, he handed me a crumpled piece of paper covered with names and dates in his frantic handwriting. Hundreds of disappearances, and I saw some of them. Dr. Crane. The figures on the third floor. I recognized faces from missing person posters from the 60s. 70 segundos. They were still wearing the same clothes. I took the paper, planning to discard it later, but my eyes fell on a name. Robert Marsh, Seattle, 2019. You knew this man? I asked, pointing. Marcus shook his head. No, but I found his blog. He understood. He knew, and they killed him. My stomach turned. I had never mentioned Robert to anyone at Illinois Hospital. Had never included the case in any publication. How could Marcus know? Marcus, I said carefully, how did you find information about Robert Marsh? His blog, The Third Floor Phenomenon. It's all there. He documented everything before they got him. That night, after hours, I searched for the blog in my office. Found it ISL, and the more I read, the more my scientific certainty began to crack. David Reeves, not Robert, but clearly they had been connected somehow, had meticulously documented almost everything Marcus had told me. The odd floors, the figures, without eyes, the impossibility of escaping once marked. And then I found the section that made my blood run cold. Partial list of known buildings. Hartwell, Building Chicago, Ill. Third floor, Ashmore. Building Detroit, me, 7th floor. Riverside Complex. Portland, or 5th floor. Centru Towers, Atlantica, 9th floor. Illinois State Hospital Abandoned Wing, 3rd floor, Illinois State Hospital, my hospital. I had worked here for 3 years, had never heard of an abandoned wing. The next morning, I searched records, discovered that the original hospital had been built in 1927, and yes, there was an entire wing that had been closed in 1955 after a series of incidents with psychiatric patients. The wing remained sealed since then, and it was connected to the main building through a hallway on the 3rd basement level, where there was an old elevator, an elevator that supposedly hadn't worked for decades. I should have left it alone, should have focused on treating Marcus with medication and conventional therapy. But the scientist in me needed to know. Needed proof. That night, I waited until the night shift staff were settled in their routines. Then I went down to the 3rd basement with a flashlight and my master access card. The hallway to the abandoned wing was blocked by a heavy metal door with structural danger warnings. Primere used my card. The door opened. The hallway beyond was exactly as Marcus had described the Hartwell building. Peeling wallpaper, sickly sweet smell of decomposition, a sense of wrong perspective that made my eyes hurt. And at the end of the hallway, the elevator, the doors were closed, but there was light seeping through the cracks, and a yellowed sign next to the panel. Do not press 3 road floor. My hand trembled as I reached for the call button. Every instinct screamed to leave. But I needed to know. The button was cold under my fingers. Too cold. I pressed it. For a long moment, nothing. Then, the sound of ancient gears beginning to move. The elevator was coming. I could hear it descending through the old cables, and with it, a sound that made every hair on my body stand up. Voices. Many voices. Singing. It was a lullaby, but the voices were off-key, overlapping, creating dissonant harmonies that made my stomach turn. The doors began to open. Dr. Crane. Don't. Marcus's voice echoed through the hallway. I turned and saw him running toward me, wearing hospital pajamas, bare feet pounding on the concrete floor. 2 security guards were behind him. Marcus reached the elevator and pulled me back, just as the doors finished opening, and I saw. For a brief second, I saw what was inside. It wasn't an elevator, it was a space that extended infinitely in all directions, completely defying the laws of physics. Hallways folded over themselves like Mobius strips. Doors floated in what should be the ceiling. And the figures, dozens of them, hundreds, all turned toward us. Empty sockets, fixed in our direction. The security guards reached us, pulling Marcus away. One of them pressed the emergency button on the wall, and the elevator doors slammed shut with a bang that reverberated through the hallway like thunder. "Dr. Crane, what are you doing here?" one of the guards demanded. "This area is restricted," but I could barely hear him. My mind was struggling to process what I had seen. That wasn't possible. Couldn't be real. Marcus was being dragged back to his ward, but he shouted over his shoulder, "Now you've seen. Now you know I'm not crazy." And the worst part was that he was right. I spent the next 48 hours reviewing everything I knew about physics, architecture, psychology, trying to find a rational explanation. Hallucinogenic gases leaking from old pipes, infrasound, creating feelings of dread and collective hallucinations. But nothing explained the absolute consistency between what Marcus described, what David Reeves documented, and what I myself had seen. On the third day, I returned to David Reeves's blog and read every word of every post. It was in the comments section that I found something crucial. A comment from 2 years ago, from a user named Serverless Sarah. "David, I escaped. I know you said it was impossible, but I discovered something. The buildings aren't random. They were all built over sites of mass traumatic events. The Hartwell was built where an orphanage that burned in 1891 once stood, killing 47 children. The Ashmore was erected over a Victorian psychiatric hospital where horrible experiments were conducted. These places absorb trauma, absorb death, and the floors are like pockets, parallel realities created by all that concentrated pain. The entities inside aren't ghosts. There's something older, something that feeds on human consciousness. But there's a way to free yourself. You need to confront your own trauma, the trauma that made you vulnerable in the first place. Primera div italiano. It took 6 months of intensive therapy, but eventually they stopped following me, stopped appearing. It's as if I was no longer tasty to them. I hope this helps someone." I reread the comment 3 times. Then I researched the history of the land where Illinois State Hospital was built. Found records that before the hospital, the site housed an asylum in the 1800s. An asylum that was closed in 1889 after a scandal involving inhumane treatments and multiple patient deaths. The wing that was now abandoned had been built exactly over the old asylum's foundations. Marcus wasn't crazy, or at least, he wasn't suffering from psychosis. He was being hunted by something real, something that transcended my understanding of reality. But if Survivalister's comment was correct, there was hope. Confront the trauma. I spent the following week working with Marcus differently, no longer treating his accounts as delusions, but as real experiences that needed to be processed. We explored his past, the violent death of his police partner 3 years ago, something Marcus had never really processed. His parents' divorce when he was 12, the guilt he carried for every case he couldn't solve. And slowly, Marcus began to improve. The scratches stopped appearing. He began to sleep a few hours per night. And crucially, he stopped seeing the figures. "They're going away," Marcus told me in our 12th week session. "I can still feel them sometimes. In the shadows, but it's like more distant, less interested. Trauma attracts them," I explained, repeating Survivalist Sarah's theory. Emotionally vulnerable people are like beacons to them. By processing and healing your trauma, you became less attractive as prey. Marcus nodded slowly. "So, David Reeves, he never healed. That's why they eventually got him." "Possibly." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus asked the question I dreaded. "And you, Dr. Crane? You also saw the elevator. You were also exposed. Are they following you now?" I swallowed hard. I hadn't admitted to Marcus, but yes. In recent days, I had started seeing figures at the periphery of my vision. Shadows that shouldn't be there. And at night, in my apartment, I could hear dragging footsteps in the hallway outside. "I'm dealing with it," I lied. But the truth was, I was terrified. And I was right to be. That night, when I returned home, I found my apartment exactly as I had left it. Doors locked, windows closed. But there was something different. The air was freezing, and that sickly sweet smell of decomposition permeated every room. I turned on all the lights, grabbed a knife from the kitchen. "I know you're here," I said aloud, my voice firm despite the terror. "But I won't make it easy for you." Silence. Then, a sound from my bedroom, the unmistakable sound of a drawer being opened. I approached slowly, the knife tight in my hand. The bedroom door was ajar. I pushed it completely open. My dresser was open, and sitting on my bed, leafing through my personal diary, was a girl. She couldn't be more than 12 years old, wearing a faded hospital dress from the 1950s. Her eyes were empty sockets, but she was reading my diary as if she could see. "Dr. Elizabeth Crane," she said with that horrible collective voice coming from her small mouth. "Born in 1985. Alcoholic father. Mother who committed suicide when you were 15. You blame yourself. Think you should have seen the signs. Should have saved her. Get out of my house," I whispered. "So much,"
Drone the girl
continued, turning pages. "So much delicious, unprocessed trauma. You help others heal, but never healed yourself. Never processed the guilt, the anger, the abandonment. You're perfect, Dr. Crane." Absolutely perfect. I said, "Get out." I threw the knife. It passed right through the girl as if she were smoke and stuck in the wall behind her. The girl didn't move, just smiled. "You can't hurt us, but we can hurt you. We're already inside your head. We already know every fear, every insecurity, every moment of pain you buried, and we'll use all of it against you until you finally press the button, until you finally come to the 3rd floor. Voluntarily." She disappeared, simply ceased to exist, and my diary fell on the empty bed. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Marcus was right. Once exposed, never free. Unless I confronted my own trauma. But 15 years of guilt over my mother's death wouldn't be healed overnight, and while I remained vulnerable, they would keep hunting. Primera needed someone who understood. The next morning, Primera se reached for Survivalacera in all forums and sites related to David Reeves's blog. It took 3 days, but I finally found an email address. I sent a desperate message explaining my situation. The response came in 6 hours. "Dr. Crane. My real name is Sarah Mitchells. I survived the 5th floor of the Riverside complex in Portland 3 years ago. What you're going through is real, and it's terrifying. But you can survive. First, find a therapist immediately. Someone specialized in PTSD and family trauma. Second, document everything. Keeping a record helped me process the experience. Third, don't be alone. The entities are stronger when you're isolated. But most importantly, understand that they lie. They'll try to convince you that the only way out is to return to the 3rd floor. It's a trap. Never go back. Never press the button again. Soapy. I've been free for a year. I don't see them anymore. Don't hear them. You can get there too, but you have to do the work. Have to face what they use against you. Contact me whenever you need. You're not alone." Sarah, tears streamed down my face as I read. I wasn't alone. Others had survived. I could survive. Over the next 3 months, I did exactly what Sarah suggested. I started intensive therapy. 3 sessions per week with a colleague specialized in trauma. I processed my mother's death for the first time, really processed it. The guilt, the anger, the abandonment. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. And during all that time, the entities kept trying. They appeared in my dreams, whispered through vents, created shadows that moved when I wasn't looking directly. But gradually, their attempts got weaker, less frequent. And finally, after 4 months of intensive therapy, they stopped. Completely. I spent a whole week waiting for them to return, but they didn't. The air in my apartment remained warm. No smell, No impossible shadows. Primera adimate. Italiano. I had survived, so did Marcus. He was discharged from the hospital after 3 months. Returned to work 6 months later. We still talk. Occasionally. He became an advocate for mental health for police officers, using his experience to help others. As for the Hartwell building, well, it's still there. Still abandoned. And sometimes, at night, residents nearby report seeing lights flickering on the 3rd floor, seeing figures in the windows, hearing voices singing off-key lullabies. The city keeps planning to demolish the building, but I know they never will. Because some things can't be destroyed, only avoided, and that's why I'm telling this story. So, no. If you see an old building with warnings about not pressing certain floors, if you hear stories about unexplained disappearances, if you feel that inexplicable chill when entering an old elevator, believe the warnings. Trust your instincts, because the 3rd floor is real, and it's waiting. But there's one final thing I need to tell you. Something that happened 3 weeks ago that changed everything. I was at a psychiatry conference in New York when I received an email from an unknown address. The subject simply said, "They're spreading." I opened it, hesitantly. The message was from another survivor, someone who identified themselves only as Dr. Crane. I found your information through Sarah Mitchell's. I'm an architect and have been studying the marked buildings for 5 years, since I escaped the 9th floor of the Central Towers. I have a disturbing discovery. The buildings aren't just existing. They're multiplying. In the last 2 years, 3 new locations have appeared. A mall in Denver, an apartment complex in Boston, and most recently, a subway station in New York. All built over sites of historical trauma. All with their own trapped floors. And it's worse. The warnings are disappearing. Someone or something is removing the signs that warn people. It's as if they want more victims, more consciousnesses to feed on. We need to organize. We need to systematically document all known locations. We need to warn people. Because if this trend continues, in a decade there will be dozens of these places. In 2 decades, hundreds. I've attached coordinates of all locations I've personally confirmed. Use this information carefully. And if you're willing to help, we have a small group of survivors who are trying to understand the phenomenon and protect others. Get in touch. The attachment contained a map with 17 locations marked in red across the United States and Canada. 17. When David Reeves was alive, he knew only 5. The phenomenon was accelerating. I replied to the email immediately. Yes, I would help, because I realized something crucial. Surviving wasn't enough. Not when more people were being marked every day. Not when the phenomenon was spreading like a virus. Now, I'm part of a secret network of survivors. We exchange information, track new buildings, try to intervene when possible, putting warnings back, alerting local communities. It's dangerous and often frustrating work. People think we're conspiracy theorists. The media ignores us. Authorities dismiss our warnings. But we continue, because we know the truth. And that's why I'm sharing this story publicly for the first time. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. Check the history of buildings in your city, especially those built between 1920 to 1940. Look for patterns of disappearances, unusual warning signs, and above all, if you see a warning about not pressing a certain floor, no matter how curious you are, no matter how skeptical you are, believe the warning. Because Marcus Chun believed he was immune. He was rational, trained, skeptical, and even so, he almost lost everything. I believed I could study the phenomenon objectively, and I was almost consumed. The 3rd floor. And places like it don't care about your skepticism. Don't care about your logic. Only care about your trauma. Your consciousness, making you part of their eternal collection. So please, if you're watching this from some city where there are old buildings, if you've seen strange warnings in elevators, if you know local stories about unexplained disappearances, leave a comment. Tell me where you're from, because we need to map these places. We need to protect people before it's too late. And if you've already pressed the button, if you're already seeing the figures, seek help immediately. Find a therapist specialized in trauma. Don't be alone, and above all, don't give up. Because both Marcus and I survived. Sarah Mitchell survived. Others survived. You can too, but you have to act now. Before they get too strong, before they get too deep in your mind. Terry is OP. There's always hope, but only if you fight for it. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Crane, and this is the story of the third floor. The story that almost killed me. The story that needs to be told. Because, in the end, the only real defense against these entities is knowledge. Awareness, preparation. Don't let the third floor catch you unprepared. Don't become another figure in the shadows. Another consciousness trapped in an impossible hallway. You've been warned.